If it can be written or thought, it can be filmed. Stanley Kubrick, a filmmaker of contradictions. To some, a genius, to others, a tyrant. He's remembered for his perfectionism, his secrecy, and his obsession with control. But for me, Kubrick always has been more than the myths. He was one of the only directors who never made a bad film. From his very first works, the talent was undeniable. And he proved himself across every genre he touched: war, sci-fi, horror, period drama, satire. He was fearless. Today, we are diving into the stories, sometimes extreme, sometimes outright crazy, that reveal the obsessions of Stanley Kubrick. The most infamous story of Kubrick's perfectionism happened on the set of The Shining. Shelley Duvall, who played Wendy Torrance, endured what can only be called psychological torture. Kubrick isolated her from the rest of the crew, criticized her constantly, and pushed her to repeat scenes until she broke down completely. The baseball bat sequence, where Wendy defends herself from Jack, was filmed in 127 takes. That's in the Guinness Book of Records as the most takes for a spoken dialogue scene. Duvall described the shoot as almost unbearable, saying her hair fell out in clumps from stress. And yet, her performance is unforgettable. Raw, terrified, genuine. It shows how far Kubrick was willing to go and how dangerous his methods could be. But it wasn't just Duvall. Kubrick was obsessed with repetition across his career. On Ice White Shot, Tom Cruise had to walk through a doorway more than 90 times. On The Shining, Scatman Crothers reportedly broke down crying after dozens of retakes, begging Kubrick to just pick one. And yet, actors like Ardley Ermey thrived under this pressure. In Full Metal Jacket, Kubrick had Ermey improvise drill sergeant insults over and over until the rhythm was perfect. What looked like chaos was, for Kubrick, control. As Jack Nicholson once put it, Stanley is the only director I have ever worked with who actually thinks actors are capable of doing better. For a man so willing to risk his actors' sanity, Kubrick was surprisingly obsessed with physical safety. He was terrified of accidents. On snowy shoots, he banned driving on set. He wore bicycle helmets on occasion, just walking around. He even installed multiple smoke alarms in his home, years before it was common. He wouldn't let his chauffeur drive above 40 miles per hour. And after he moved to the UK, he refused to fly altogether. From A Clockwork Orange to Full Metal Jacket to Ice White Shot, every single film was shot in England, no matter the story or location. Vietnam, New York, or outer space, Kubrick recreated them all within driving distance of his home, simply because he never wanted to get on a plane again. Kubrick's need for control didn't stop at the camera. It shaped his daily routines. He famously wore the same outfit, blue shirt, dark jacket, comfortable shoes. But it wasn't laziness. He owned multiple identical sets of clothes, eliminating the distraction of deciding what to wear. That same mindset extended to something as small as stationery. One assistant remembered being sent out to buy not just one notepad, but dozens. Kubrick wanted to examine every possible option before deciding which felt exactly right. And this wasn't for a prop or a film, it was just for himself. To outsiders, these habits looked eccentric, even extreme. But to Kubrick, every choice mattered, no matter how small. As he once said, "I do not always know what I want, but I do know what I don't want." That drive for precision also showed in his research. If Kubrick was working on a film involving nuclear strategy like Dr. Strangelove or astrophysics like 2001: A Space Odyssey, he wouldn't hesitate to call up the world's leading experts. Often, these scientists had never even heard of him. Imagine your phone rings and it's Stanley Kubrick asking to know the exact fallout radius of a nuclear bomb. He asked questions with relentlessness that could feel like an interrogation. But that's because, for Kubrick, ignorance was unacceptable. He wanted to understand everything. Assistants later recalled that Kubrick's questioning wasn't only about answers, it was about character. He would fire questions like bullets, not to gain information, but to see how people responded under pressure. Could they think clearly? Could they stand their ground? It was the same method he used with actors, push them to the edge to see what comes out. For Kubrick, pressure wasn't abuse, it was a tool. And no one researched like Kubrick. Before 2001: A Space Odyssey, he read every book on space travel he could get his hands on, even those not available to the public. He insisted the film's accuracy outdo NASA's own PR. For Barry Lyndon, he studied 18th century paintings until he found a way to replicate their look with natural candlelight. He commissioned custom camera lenses from NASA to make it possible. Research wasn't pre-production, it was the foundation of his art. This obsessive detail is why his films inspire so many theories. Some believe The Shining is his secret confession that he helped fake the moon landing. Others dissect Eyes Wide Shut for hidden codes about secret societies. Whether true or not, the theories exist because Kubrick put so much intention into every frame. His films practically demand obsession because they were created by obsession. Of course, there was a cost. Shelley Duvall never fully recovered from The Shining. Malcolm McDowell suffered a scratched cornea while filming A Clockwork Orange and swore never to work with Kubrick again. Even Scatman Crothers said the endless retakes left him shaken. But then you have actors like Jack Nicholson, who called Kubrick the best director he ever worked with, or Tom Cruise, who said Eyes Wide Shut was the most demanding and rewarding experience of his career. Kubrick could break you or make you transcend your limits. A film is, or should be, more like music than like fiction. Stanley Kubrick remains cinema's great enigma. To some, his obsessions look like madness. To others, they are the price of genius. But no one can deny the results, a body of work where not a single film is disposable. For me, that's the ultimate inspiration. Kubrick showed me what it means to live for art, to treat every frame as sacred. As a kid, his biography was a beacon, proof that obsession, discipline, and vision can change cinema forever. Stanley Kubrick may have been obsessive, even extreme, but he left us with films that will never fade. And that, to me, is the legacy of a true master.